Hello, second year students. I welcome you all to the Department of English as the head of the department. Welcome all of you to the second year. आप लोग बिना एग्ज़ाम दिए फर्स्ट ईयर से सेकेंड ईयर में आए हैं. इससे ज़्यादा खुश मत होइए. इट इज़ नॉट अ वेरी गुड थिंग. When you study and sit for an exam, you learn a lot many things, children. But nevertheless, जो कुछ हुआ उसके ऊपर हमारा और आपका कंट्रोल नहीं है. Let's hope the future is better. I welcome you to the second year English. It is such a good thing to have such an amazing students, such a big batch for second year, which we have not had for many years now. I will be doing both the papers of second year with you, which is the first paper is poetry and drama, and the second paper is prose and fiction. And let me start with poetry, in which I want to tell you something about. I'll just start with poetry, which is mostly based on the pre-romantic, the romantic, and the and then you have the American writers, some American poets in it. Now, as we all know, the romantic poetry is very, very popular. It is one of the most there was a time when England was very proud of its romantic poets. And who are the romantic poets? They are divided into two. The first categories of the older romantics, which has Wordsworth and his friend Coleridge in it, and the second one is of the younger romantics, which is Shelley, Keats, and Byron. Okay, now these people, these amazing poets, were very well known in their lifetimes. Only they had become very popular, and some were a bit unlucky, like Shelley and Keats. And what I was wanting to tell you here is that I want to tell you what romanticism is all about. What is a romantic poet? You see a lot of Bollywood films. उससे रोमांस का मतलब मत निकालिएगा. Romantic does not have anything to do with love. It means highly imaginative. Poets who were very imaginative, poets who were very fond of nature. In fact, अगर love की बात कहें तो they loved nature. They were great worshippers and lovers of Mother Nature. They were the greatest poets of sentiments and emotion, and they were very well known for very different qualities which the other poets in the history of English literature were not. Now I'll tell you something very important, beta. इन फर्स्ट ईयर आपका जो कोर्स था आपने देखा होगा वो ड्राइडन और पोप की पोइट्री पे ख़त्म होता था. अगर आपने पढ़ा भी हो थोड़ा सा तो यू वुड नो दैट दे वर कॉल्ड द न्यू क्लासिकल्स और द ऑगस्टन्स. न्यू क्लासिकल्स और ऑगस्टन्स के कुछ रूल्स थे विच दे यूज टू फॉलो वेरी वेरी फर्वेंटली, और जिन रूल्स को फॉलो ये सोचा जाता था कि ये दे विल बी फॉलोड फॉर एवर, बट इट वॉज नॉट द केस. वर्ड्सवर्थ और कोलरिज ने आके सारे के सारे रूल्स बदल दिए. सो आई विल फर्स्ट टेल यू व्हाट वर द रूल्स सेट बाय द ऑगस्टन्स और द न्यू क्लासिकल्स, विच इज़ ड्राइडन, पोप एंड स्विफ्ट. द फर्स्ट रूल वॉज दैट poetry is not for the common masses, it is for the intelligentsia or the upper class. Number 2, they wanted to write poetry in a very tight meter, which was the heroic couplet for them. Number 3, their subjects of poetry were lords, ladies, dukes, kings, courts, and the treacheries and conspiracies of the court. Okay, so this was their basic subject matter or theme. And of course the language was very artificial, very ornate, something which cannot be grasped very easily in one reading. Okay, so basically what you get over here is a very watertight compartment poetry. Now Wordsworth and Coleridge, they wrote a book called Lyrical Ballads, in which they completely rejected the Augustan rules and regulations. The Augustans said that poetry is only for the elite and the intelligentsia. They completely rejected it, and they said poetry is for the common man. The Augustans said that it should be written in heroic couplet or a tight meter. Wordsworth and Coleridge completely rejected it and said that it could be written in the common colloquial language of human beings. The Augustine said that the subject matter of poetry should be, courts and kings and conspiracies and, high class, but the Romantics, Wordsworth and Coleridge, said that we will write poetry on flowers, grass, hills, mountains, rivers, anything that appeals to us and gives us pleasure. And lastly, that poetry should, they did not tie poetry to any meter, they did not tie poetry to any subject matter, they did not tie poetry to any particular language. वो कहते थे कि, they said, the Augustine said that language should be very high standard and very ornate because, you are writing for a higher strata. The Romantics completely rejected it, and they said that the language could be very simple, very easy, and it should not be the one which could not be understood by people at all. So basically, what you have in Wordsworth and Coleridge is a complete denial of the literature or of the times of the Augustines. Okay, so I told you Lyrical Ballads was one of the most important books that Wordsworth and Coleridge wrote. Coleridge also wrote Biographia Literaria, in which he supported Wordsworth's theory of poetry. According to the Augustines, the poetry was to be very, very, very difficult, very abstruse, very high standard, very ornate, very typical. But our Wordsworth said no. Poetry is a spontaneous outburst of emotions recollected in the moments of tranquility. So all this was happening in the Romantic period. Now, children, let me also tell you that the Romantic period and the Romantic and the Augustan period, there is a sandwich period which is called the pre-romantics or the transitionals. And I told you that Gray, Collins and Cooper were very great representatives of the transition period. Also try to understand what is the transition period, where the poets like Dryden and Swift and Pope were writing that very difficult humors and satires in very ornate language, very tight meter. They were suddenly beginning to flower in England a batch of poets who were starting to break away from those rules, becoming more. They might not actually escape the style, but in their subject matter they were becoming more liberal, and that is what led actually to the birth of poets like Wordsworth and Coleridge, who could openly challenge and deny the Augustan tenets and say, well, we are now going to be supported by the common public. We are going to write for the common public. We are going to write in the common language of the public, and we are going to write about the common subjects that the public likes, and we are going to write in the colloquial common language of the public. So this transition from the Augustans to the Romantics actually is sandwiched by a period called, in between them there is a sandwich period which is called the pre-Romantics, which led from the Augustans to the Romantics. Okay, now when I talk to you about the Romantics, let me also tell you that the Romantics were very, very imaginative poets. They loved nature. Their poetry did not follow any tight meter. It was free verse. Then they were their subjects were chosen from all. They just plundered Mother Nature and chose their subjects. Their poetry was written in the colloquial language of the common human beings, the speech language, the communication language of common human beings, and of course, it was understood and admired. In fact, lyrical ballads were put out to the public to give their reactions, to tell people what was poetry all about? How did they like this new kind of poetry? If they had any objections to this new kind of poetry? Wordsworth had actually put it out as a pamphlet. He had put it out as a experiment in front of the people of England, to actually try to sort of vote either for the Augustans or for this new wave of romantic poetry of which Wordsworth was such a big representative. अच्छा बेटा, एक चीज़ और बतानी है आपको कि जब आप लिटरेचर में ये एजेस या युग करते हैं तो ये कट एंड ड्राइड नहीं है कि भाई 1640 से लेकर 1700 तक ये था और 1700 से लेकर 1720 तक ये था, ऐसा नहीं है. When all these people, when the pre-romantics were writing, the romantics were already in the fray, and when the romantics, like जैसे वर्ड्सवर्थ के लिए कहा जाता है वर्ड्सवर्थ 80 years के थे, विक्टोरियन एज स्टार्ट हो चुकी थी, टेनिसन बहुत बड़े उनके राइटर, उनके पोइट बनते जा रहे थे जिनकी बहुत इज़्ज़त होती थी, और हर जगह एक ही बात होती थी कि कब वर्ड्सवर्थ जाएं और टेनिसन को पोइट लॉरिएटशिप मिले. तो मेरा जो कहने का मतलब है कि युग या एजेस बिल्कुल कट एंड ड्राइड नहीं होती, उसमें ओवरलैपिंग होती है. हो सकता है कि एक बहुत महान पोइट पुराने युग का अभी भी जिंदा हो, लेकिन एक नया युग लेखन की शैली में, इन द राइटिंग स्टाइल ऑफ पोइट्री स्टार्ट हो चुका हो. सो बेसिकली आपको रोमांटिसिज्म के बहुत सारी चीज़ें और भी जाननी है. सबसे पहले आप जान लीजिए दे वर द ग्रेटेस्ट लवर्स ऑफ नेचर. उसके बाद वर्ड्सवर्थ के लिए नेचर वॉज द फ्रेंड, फिलोसफर एंड गाइड. वर्ड्सवर्थ और कोलरिज ने बैठ के ये डिसाइड किया था कि वर्ड्सवर्थ विल राइट पोइट्री ऑल अबाउट नेचर, वेयर एज कोलरिज विल राइट पोइट्री अबाउट द सुपर नेचुरल, वो जो कि नेचुरल नहीं है, जो कि जैसे कि घोस्ट हैं, स्पिरिट्स हैं, उनके बारे में वर्ड्सवर्थ पोइट्री करेंगे. फिर आते हैं आपके यंगर रोमांटिक्स, जिनमें कीट्स बहुत प्रोमिनेंट है. कीट्स की 2-3 क्वालिटीज़ हैं. हेलेनिज्म, हिज लव फॉर द ग्रीक कल्चर, हिज लव फॉर ब्यूटी, एंड देन सेंशुअसनेस. बेसिकली आपकी 5 इंद्रियों को अपील करने वाले, उन्हें अट्रैक्ट करने वाले ऐसे वर्ड पिक्चर्स वो बनाते थे, इसलिए उनकी सेंशुअस क्वालिटी बहुत फेमस है. देन वो वर्ड पिक्चर्स बनाते थे, इसलिए उनकी पिक्टोरियल क्वालिटी, यानी कि शब्दों से चित्रण करना, ये बहुत फेमस थी उनकी. एंड ऑफ कोर्स आई मीन एज अ यंगर पोएट, एज अ यंगर रोमांटिक, वो अपनी एक चीज़ के लिए अपने दोस्त से, शैली से बहुत डिफरेंट थे. वो पोइट्री सिर्फ पोइट्री के लिए लिखते थे, सिर्फ कला के लिए, कला जिसे हम लोग आर्ट फॉर आर्ट सेकिस्ट कहते हैं, वो थे. और जबकि शैली जो थे, उन्होंने अपनी पोइट्री को अपने दुनिया को एक मैसेज देने का माध्यम बना दिया था. ही हैड मेड इट अ व्हीकल टू कैरी अ मैसेज टू द वर्ल्ड, व्हीकल टू कैरी हिज आइडियलिज्म टू द वर्ल्ड. उन्होंने पोइट्री को एक काम दिया था, जबकि कीट्स कहते थे कि पोइट्री को कोई फंक्शन, कोई काम नहीं है. पोइट्री सिर्फ पोइट्री के लिए, आनंद के लिए और स्वाध्याय के लिए लिखी जानी चाहिए. सो बेसिकली हम लोग अब ये देखते हैं कि अगर मैं आपको कंक्लूड करना चाहूँ, इफ़ आई वांट टू कंक्लूड दिस, तो हम लोग सिर्फ ये कहेंगे कि रोमांटिक्स वर हाईली इमेजिनेटिव, they were nature lovers, they were the lovers of Greek culture, they wrote in free words, they wrote on common subjects of mother nature, okay, and then they did not tie themselves to any meter. बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है बेटा. आप सेकेंड ईयर में जैसे ही आप लोगों की लिस्ट फाइनल होंगी, आई विल मेक योर व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप, एंड आई मीन as soon as I can make a WhatsApp group, I will start showing you these videos. But by that time, I would request you to buy your prose and poetry books and start doing. I will teach you. I will send out notes to you, and I will teach you. If the colleges don't open, I will teach you through this medium, and I will do each and every, almost every unit I will try to cover with you. So please be particular. आपको कुछ समझ नहीं आता, if you feel my English is of a very high standard, I will try to lower it down. If you feel that you're not able to grasp my English, I will definitely try to bring it down. But I request you, please get your books, and we shall then sort of keep interacting on offline or online, whatever mode God wants us to, and we will finish our course. And I wish you all the best. I also want you to be very particular about the notes that I send you. आप प्लीज़ उन नोट्स को बहुत अच्छी तरह से पढ़िए, उन्हें लर्न कीजिए, और अगर उनमें कोई डिफ़िकल्टी है तो अपने व्हाट्सएप के मीडियम से, if the colleges don't open, then I will take you on Zoom platform also. So on Zoom as well as my videos and on the platform of WhatsApp, please try to keep in touch. And I hope you're all taking great care from COVID. Please wear your mask, maintain social distance, and please be good. Thank you.